All right, in this video, we're going to continue shading in our shoe, but before I go any further with actually shading in the shoe, I wanted to touch base real quickly on something that I see people struggle with all the time, and that is the use of one of these, an eraser. So what I see all the time is I see people who draw with very dark lines on their drawing, and then they don't like how they turned out, so they erase them, and the line's still there. So this is something that I run into all the time, and I wanted to address because it might be helpful for you going forward. It's a really good idea that when you do draw lines on your paper, you draw them very light. And we talked about this in the previous drawing, and I showed how I draw my lines very light, but I'm able to erase these lines very easily and correct them if I draw them light from the start. So when it comes to cleaning up the edges of my drawing here, I'm able to take my eraser very lightly. I don't even have to push very hard with it. And I'm able to clean up this drawing that I've been working on and make it look a little bit nicer. So these edges that were a little rough from my sketch earlier, I can very quickly clean up with just a little bit of eraser. So using light pencil lines can really be tremendously helpful for you to keep your drawings a lot cleaner and make it so that you don't struggle when it comes time to erase some lines out and clean everything up and make it look a little bit more finished and polished. So with that being said, let's continue forward with shading this in. And I was working on this area here in the previous video. So I'm going to continue working in this area. I'm going to start by pushing very soft and darkening my shading as I go. So I don't want to make it dark instantly. I do notice a little bit of a light area that leads up this way. So I'm going to go around that area like I was doing before. And one of the things you guys will notice when you're looking at the paper as I'm drawing here is that we see a lot of texture of the paper showing through. They call that the tooth of the paper. And some paper has a little bit more texture or tooth, and other paper has a little bit less and is a lot smoother to draw on. The tooth of the paper does not bother me at all, and I don't mind seeing a little bit of the texture showing through in my drawing. I'm not trying to create a photograph here. I want this to look like my own artwork that I created here with a pencil, so it's fine for me if it does show a little bit of the texture of the paper itself. It doesn't bother me. If it is something that you really wanted to fix, they make tools, blending tools that you can use for blending your pencil marks in with. I prefer that people don't use those in 7th grade because I like you to practice the use of your pencil for blending and shading first. And then you can work up towards using blending tools as you advance into 8th grade. In 8th grade art, Mr. Petter does allow you to use the blending tools for your sketchbooks and stuff, so it can definitely be helpful and something that you can use. But if you can blend it really close and really accurate with your pencil first, then that means the amount of work you end up doing with a blending tool is very minimal. See, I'm barely adding any pressure. That's why my hand's so far back on the pencil, because I don't want to add much pressure at all to this paper with the pencil. It's going to create this very light shadow here, which is going to be this area, which is not dark at all. The darker areas is easy. I can always add more pressure. Having a big range of values is really beneficial when you're working on this shading. So giving a lot of range and variability in how hard you push with the pencil really can make your drawings look better and better. You see I'm creating a medium value there. It is a highlight compared to the solid black that we see above and below it, but it is not that, it's not going to be plain white either. So when I'm done with this, you're not going to see any plain white left on the shoe at all, because even the brightest whites are nowhere near as white as the paper. When I want to make even darker marks, you might notice that I changed my grip on my pencil. I'm trying to make very dark marks, so changing my grip around a little bit can be beneficial with that. I talked about grip in the last video, so if you're curious as to why I'm using which grip, you can always go back and take a look at that and kind of see the differences. You guys might notice also, I'm right-handed, so I'm actually working from left to right on my paper. If you were left-handed and you're holding the pencil this way, it can be beneficial to work from the right to the left, and that way you don't get a tremendous amount of pencil marks on the back of your hand, which will cause it to smear. Obviously, if I rub my hand through the pencil marks all the time, I'm going to start to get marks there. So I can avoid that by predominantly working from left to right, and then also moving my paper around a little bit to help me to keep the pencil off of my hand as much as possible. And you can already see that I'm starting to create a pretty wide range of values from very light here, medium, darker, to very, very black in through here. There are still some small highlights showing up in my drawing, and this is really important. So going forward, I'm going to stop this video here, and the future videos I'm going to put of this particular drawing, I'll make in a time-lapse format so that you can continue to watch me work my way the rest of the way through drawing a sketch like this. But you can apply the same concepts that I talked about on these videos to any type of drawing that you're working on. Thanks for watching.